my hand is a bullet. This week alone, 24 Kenyans were admitted to the Kitengela Sub-County Hospital with such bullets in their bodies. The death toll since the protests began 3 weeks ago is currently at 41 deaths, and during the latest protest on Tuesday, a group of Kenyans dropped coffins along Moi Avenue in an almost poetic and symbolic fashion. My name is Ralph Ongutusi, and this is Newsweek. In today's show, I'm joined by Brian Mbunde, a social media guru with over 10 years experience, as we discuss the power of social media versus the power of a bullet in the recent protests. But first, here are this week's top stories. On Monday, former Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter was released after getting abducted on Sunday while leaving church with his family. The former member of parliament alongside Babu Owino and Mike Sonko expressed his displeasure with the ordeal, terming it unlawful and unconstitutional.
It's fortunate in this society. You cannot intimidate us into silence. And I want to say I'm coming out strong. We will follow what whatever measures they want us to say. We were coming back tomorrow, or we come even the day after tomorrow. But one thing that I want to promise you, we will never be intimidated to silence. We will continue fighting for the rights and the citizens of this republic, because we believe unless we speak about these issues, many people will not speak about it. You can see we have a parliament where they've already compromised most of the members of parliament. They are taking money instead of making decisions based on what they...
On Tuesday, the planned Occupy Everywhere protests were infiltrated as goons were witnessed destroying businesses across the country, with Mombasa, Nairobi, Nyeri and Eldoret experiencing the worst damage.
Mimi nilikuwa naongoza maandamano, tulikuwa na amani jamaa. Tumetoka State House, tukiwa na polisi tulikuwa na amani. Tukafika Cafe Point. Fika Cafe Point, Wasomali walikuwa na mapisto. Wakaanza kulenga mapisto chini wakitishia waandamanaji, ambapo hawakuwa na shida nao. Wamepiga wawili wetu risasi, hakufa. Akawa wamenilenga mimi, watatu walinilenga, nikainua mikono nikasema waniua, hatuna ubaya. Wakaogopa wakarudi.
Wanapiga marisasi, wamepiga vijana wanne. Mmoja wao huyu ni ndugu yake. Ndugu yake Kennedy ndio ameuliwa na amepigwa risasi ya tumbo. Sisi tunaomba serikali namna hii. Tunataka justice.
Haki yetu! Haki yetu! Haki yetu!
On Wednesday, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission (SRC) announced the increase of salaries for members of parliament and key government officials. The move, which triggered an uproar by netizens, was criticized for being untimely, leading to members of the cabinet publicly rejecting the salary increments.
In all honesty, nobody asked for that increment. Nobody that I know. Personally, I never asked for that increment of 14,000 shillings. Tone deaf if we are going to insist that we get that increment this particular year or next year, when the economy is in the doldrums, when many Kenyans have nothing to put on the table. So I also support the proposal by members who have spoken before me that we formally resolve that we as a Senate are not interested in any additional salaries this particular financial year. Number two, Honorable Speaker, we need to relook at our budgets in...
As the week came to a close, the family of Rex Masai, who lost his life in the protest, held a memorial service on Thursday ahead of the burial ceremony. Rex Masai, who was on his way home from work, was shot with a live bullet by a civilian-dressed police officer at night, according to CCTV footage, and lost his life moments after. The burial of Rex is set to take place in Machakos this Friday.
And I'm here to say thank you for everyone. Thank you for everyone who has taken his or her time to come and mourn with us. May the good Lord reward you.
And now we are getting into the conversation with Brian Mbunde. So first of all, thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you so much for the invite.
What I'd like us to start with is, how active were you in the protests that started 3 weeks ago?
On ground or online?
On ground. Let's start with on ground.
Definitely on ground. I came out to support to support my friends who actually wanted to go,
Yeah.
and also to reject the finance bill. I'm definitely not siding with it,
Yeah.
and I feel that it's going to make my life way harder. Already with the amount of money that I'm taking home,
Yeah.
then now you add this finance bill, definitely it's going to be hard on me. So I
Yeah.
had to come out and protest and be against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel holding this bullet in your hand, knowing how active you were in the protests and how it was used?
Definitely scared, because it could have been me. It could have been me being buried today. Could have been me being disabled today. Could have been my parents actually crowdsourcing for money so as to pay for my hospital bills. So I feel so sad that the government decided to use force. I'm so sad that the government, instead of coming to the table and actually having that discussion in terms of, okay, this is what people are against for, they decided, okay, these guys who are attacking parliament, let's shoot them dead. I was literally close to parliament during that period when when guys were being shot at and even sniped, and I feel that it could have been me. Yeah, so I'm very skeptic about it.
Now, going back to your participation in these protests.
Yes.
Now, online. How active were you online, and how much do you think social media impacted this whole protest?
Social media really impacted this protest in various ways. In terms of mobilizing people, social media came through, especially platforms like Twitter, Instagram, of course, with some influencers, and also TikTok was very, very huge. In terms of also directing people on the side that they suspect cops are going to block, social media really came huge, because so many people, by around 8 a.m. guys had already said Mombasa Road has been blocked, so use another route. So just like that, guys were able to communicate with people in terms of what's happening on ground. Also, in terms of communicating, people use social media to communicate with their friends in terms of checking up on them, using social media in terms of, okay, switch on your live location, so in case anything happens to you, I can come to your side, and in terms of just mobilizing people together. And lastly, in terms of creating like a monetary system where the money could be used for the doctors and even the nurses on ground in case of anything, and even people to buy water, because people realized, okay, cops are going to definitely tear gas us. We need to be hydrated, and also to just clear up the tear gas. So social media really came through.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, on the funds, the part that you've mentioned lastly.
Yes.
What do you think about CS Nakumisha's comments? I think it was Thursday,
Yes.
stating that Kenyatta Hospital will be waiving all the bills on these people. Yet online, we've been seeing some personalities
Yes.
who have been creating these funds and actually taking care of these patients.
Yes.
So what do you think about how the government has handled that?
I feel the biggest problem with the government is that they usually assume that people won't go on ground, because chances are high that I lost a brother and I went on ground and I documented it, and I am the one who's feeling the brunt. But when someone else comes through and helps that person, and you can even follow the trail, the money trail, and see that, okay, my brother was admitted, my brother is now at home, that makes sense. But now I feel the government is just blowing hot air, and they're barely doing anything and even assisting the victims. Yes.
Nice. Now, if we're getting into the information part,
Yes.
you've been very active on Twitter,
Yes.
and a lot of information is shared on Twitter.
Yes.
How are you able to tell the credibility of this information? Because a lot of people have been posting videos, pictures of what's currently going on. Like you started saying, this is where guys are finding information. This
Yes.
road has been blocked.
Yes.
So how are you able to identify this is actually real, good information,
Yes.
and this is fake news?
The best thing about Twitter is it's a platform for crowdsourcing so much. I remember there's a video that someone posted from Egypt, and it looked like a whole crowd was coming into the CBD, and someone said, okay, this is Mombasa Road. But the best thing is that people came through and they said, okay, which side of Mombasa Road is this? So based on working with so many people, you're able to identify a fake content. And also, one thing I would definitely advise people is don't be that person who's quick in terms of reporting something. Make sure you verify. Maybe if it's you posting the content and you recorded it with your device, that's well and good. But if you saw a video and you want to share and maybe scare people, that's of course wrong. Yeah.
And how about on the side of abductions? Because that's another thing that has also come up a lot since the protests began.
Yes.
There's been cases of, real abductions happening, CCTV footage being shown. However, based on the timeline conversations, there's also coming up different information that there are some people who might not have actually been kidnapped or abducted. So what do you think about that?
It really sucks that there are so many people who are taking advantage of this situation, and I honestly don't know their end goal, because there's no medal that you'll be given that you abducted during the Reject the Finance Bill situation. And people need to be honest, because you are scaring people and you're also creating this tension on social media. 3 of my friends, actually 5 of my friends, got kidnapped, and it was scary in terms of maybe it might be me next. And also, even when you're driving around, even walking around, you're scared it might be you next. So always put in your mind, keep in your mind that anything, okay, if you scare people, your other circle, your close circle might also be affected. So just be honest about it. Yes, and I think there should be repercussions. You need to be taken to court and charged for spreading false information.
Nice. It's good that you've mentioned this whole repercussions part, because I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Who do you think has taken the stand on oversight, especially on this case of the protests? Because we have IPOA on one end, but we also have social media users. Based on the CCTV footage and also the pictures that have been distributed in terms of this is the rogue cop who fired this shot and this is what happened. Who do you think has been doing the job?
I think the best body that I would say has come through is the Kenya Human Rights Commission, because they've been receiving images even from influencers, even from content creators. We've been sharing with them. One rule that we said before we even went out to the streets was make sure you document, make sure you share anything that you have, you share online, because you never know, you might be saving someone else's life. IPOA, of course, has downgraded the number. They've said that around 20 or so people have died, but
now.
Yes, but now problem is from our side on social media, we've been doing fundraising, we've been going to different hospitals to sort them out, and even when you go to basically city mortuary, when you see the number of dead bodies lying there, and you actually ask where did these guys get all these injuries, chances are very high it was based on going to the demonstrations.
Do you think, okay, in terms of oversight still, what role can social media take in terms of oversight in ensuring that such things, such cases like the shootings that I've experienced still do not happen?
Sadly, that's not the role of social media. It's a role of the government to make sure that they protect their citizens, especially if they're demonstrating safely without all this violence. Because if you compare what happened on Tuesday 25th versus literally now this week, chances are very high that even if you document, people who are scared this week, people who are scared of the goons, you couldn't see the bodies in the streets because everyone was scared that they would be mugged. But last week on 25th, guys were safe, guys were walking with their phones, documenting everything, and even if someone got mugged, the goons had to be, most of them were arrested, and even, okay, some were beaten up, but if, most of the times, even if they were beaten up, the devices or anything, any goods that were stolen were returned to the original owner.
Nice. Now, getting back to the first thing that you've mentioned, it's not the role of social media, it's the role of the government. We saw that the president and government officials are calling for dialogue a lot, especially when tension got higher. Now, just today, we're expecting the X-Space with the president.
Yes.
They've decided to come onto social media
Yes.
rather than that forum they were suggesting.
Yes.
What do you think about this?
I think we don't deserve to join that space because he spoke to us on Sunday and there's nothing that made sense.
Yeah.
And even when he was asked in terms of the people who've died, he didn't actually get to the point. So he was just beating around the bush. Duale also had an interview. Kindiki has had an interview. The whole government has been beating around the bush in terms of the killings, in terms of did they use excessive force when people went to parliament. Of course they did, because there's footage which we can get from social media, even from other people. So I feel the government trying to use X-Space to target Gen Z is just a stunt for them to try and talk about something, and I'm sure they won't address the situation because we already share, okay, they already know what we want to be addressed from in terms of reducing the size of the cabinet, in terms of removing the size of the CSs, and also in terms of the salaries. They need to definitely reduce it because Kenyans are suffering right now. So we don't need the president to come on space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, based on the salary part, we just play that also in our news right
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Do you think these members of cabinet are actually honest about not wanting this money, or is it a PR stunt to get people on board?
It's definitely a PR stunt because when they joined the cabinet and even the senators themselves, they knew what they were getting and what they were expecting to get, and they knew how Kenyans are suffering right now. The price of unga is still high, the price of fuel is still high, even cooking oil is high, everything is high. Not everyone can afford it. People are sleeping hungry. People in areas like Kilifi are doing everything in their means to make sure that they don't sleep hungry, but the senators right now, they've just woken up miraculously and realized, oh God, 14,000 is not going to change so much in my life. If it had made sense that they reduce their salaries, that's the best thing that would literally affect every Kenyan versus them denying that they want an increment. Yes.
Nice. Now, on that, what do you think is the solution on keeping members of parliament accountable? Should we still expect to have Kenyans going on the street for protests in order for issues to be addressed, or how else do you think things can happen?
I think the best thing is for them to actually sit down with Kenyans, which they usually do before every tax period, before the financial year starts, and listen to, okay, this and these are the problems that are affecting people in my county. So this and this is how we could be able to reduce the budget and even be able to reach out to more people. Because now the biggest problem is that when they get things like CDF, this looks like a money pit for them. Bursaries, literally, they distribute to the biggest bidder. So it's more of the MPs and even the senators going on ground and discussing with the people versus them being elected. Then 5 years later, before elections, that's when they are actually able to discuss with people. I believe going to the streets and especially communicating the right messaging definitely works. But right now, I don't believe going to the streets works because, of course, the government has sponsored goons and they won't admit who's sponsoring and paying them. But right now, we don't want to mix up with the goons. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, now, based on how everything has been going, are you hopeful that the protests will lead to something greater, considering that the finance bill dropped and considering that even today we are supposed to still have that X-Space, whether or not you are up for it? Yeah.
Yes.
Are you hopeful about it, or what do you think about how the status is?
I'm hopeful about it because the bill was rejected. And I'm definitely monitoring and seeing whether the government is going to, of course, reduce the CS, not even reduce, but remove the CSs and even reduce the cabinet itself, because right now we have the cabinet which is very bloated, and if they were able to merge most of these departments, we would be able to save so much money. Yeah.
All right. Nice. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. This has been Brian Bude. Thank you so much for joining us on this show.
Thank you.
This has been Newsweek. My name is Ralph Ongutusi, and I will catch you next time.